Do you want to reduce your financial reporting from hours to minutes? Do you want your reports to automatically send themselves while you enjoy your morning cup of coffee? Well, this might sound too good to be true, but I'm going to teach you how to do it in just minutes. I'm Mike, and over more than a decade of finance experience, I've done at least 140 reporting cycles, everywhere from the Fortune 100 to brand new startups. One time, I took over a team that was manually producing 30 individual Excel files and PowerPoints every month end, and was the last team out of the office. Using the power of dashboards, I automated this entire work stream down to one single dashboard that people could access on their own without us even having to send anything out, repurposing all of that time to analyzing and helping improve the business. And I want to teach you that same thing today. Make sure to stick around the end because I've got a game-changing tip that will make your dashboards the envy of all your colleagues. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss a single one of our action-packed finance videos. You do not want to miss what I have coming up over the next few weeks. So let's get started and learn how to build a financial dashboard in just minutes. The most important thing to begin is to start with the end. That is the end in mind of what the dashboard needs to do. The first question to ask yourself: what is the goal of the dashboard? What are you hoping to accomplish? Following that, who will use the dashboard? Who will use the dashboard and what do they need? It's also important to understand, are you replacing an existing report and you need to incorporate that functionality, or are you starting from scratch? And then to that point, what information should be included? What is truly the most important information that the user of your dashboard needs to know? Don't start anything until you have the answer to these 4 questions. So how do you go about building a dashboard? Well, I have a 7-step framework, each of which is critical and builds on the last. The first, as we already talked, is to set objectives and goals by starting with the end in mind. The second, once you've answered those 4 questions, outline your dashboard. I personally like to get just a plain 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I draw out what I want it to look like, what I want the KPIs to look like, what I want the P&Ls to look like, how I want it to be structured, and what will be most usable. Then that way I know what I'm doing before I ever start building. Next, once you've laid it out, figure out what data and other inputs you need and gather those together in a clean and condensed form. A dashboard is just a tool to report on data, so you have to have all your data sources ready to go and cleaned up. Then you can actually start building the dashboard in your tool of choice, which we'll talk about some tools shortly. You want to go in and code this on top of whatever data you're using. I'll show you how to do it really fast using Power BI and get it up and running. Then, critical, test and adjust. Especially if you're coming off of an existing report, you want to run the dashboard and make sure you're getting the same results. If it's not an existing product, you want to still compare back to some benchmark or other key reports to make sure the data is accurate and coming through as you expect. Now, this is where most people stop, assuming they even do test and adjust, but you need to keep going if you want anyone to use this. The next step, and I think the most critical and most skipped, is change management. This is where you have to go out to the potential users of the dashboard. You have to train them on the dashboard, show them the functionality, and explain to them the benefits of moving off of their older or legacy reporting onto your new tool. And then continuous enhancement. As people start to use the dashboard, as you use the dashboard, you might find new features or new functionality that people are asking for, and you'll continuously enhance it because this dashboard is a living, breathing thing that you want to constantly be as up to date as possible. Steps 6 and 7 are what causes the failure of dashboarding projects, no matter how good the dashboard is. So what are some common dashboard tools that we can use? Well, for a very basic dashboard, if you just can't get your hands on any other software, Excel is a great option. You can build some stuff in. It's not going to be as automated or as fancy as some of the other platforms, but it will get the job done in a pinch. Next is the first step in a dashboard, and that's Power BI. Power BI is built right into Excel, and it's a fantastic option to get your feet wet. There's free versions as well, which is great. A lot of Office 365 subscriptions included. Great way to get off the ground. Then there's the 3 big dashboarding specific platforms. This includes Tableau, which is the most common and best known, Click, and ThoughtSpot. These 3 all have different user interfaces, but very similar functionality. At the end of the day, you pull in data and then you visualize on top of the data. And then there's so many more tools. Almost every single customized reporting or planning solution that we use in finance, these will all have their own dashboarding capabilities built right in. Very similar functionality, just not a specific dashboarding platform like the ones listed here. So now what I want to do is I want to take you through a case study. We're going to open up Power BI and we're going to go through this live. But first we want to answer our 4 questions. What is the goal of our dashboard? Our dashboard is to pull in critical financial metrics and critical KPIs for our CFO to look at. This would be something that he would open up every Monday morning to understand the state of the business. Who will use the dashboard? Well, we just answered it, the CFO, but also the CFO's leadership committee. When we say a CFO dashboard, it doesn't mean that necessarily just the CFO will use it, but it's a CFO view of the business. Are we replacing an existing report? Yes, we are. This is currently an Excel spreadsheet that is sent out. It's very clunky, it has to be manually produced every week, so we're going to send that out and automate it. And what information should be included? Well, we're going to look at critical things. We want to look at revenue, things like gross margin, our operating profit, and then some critical KPIs to the business. And we want to put those all in one spot. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to open up Power BI. Assuming you have a Power BI subscription in Office 365, you can either go through Office 365 or go to app.powerbi.com. And then this window will open. Again, any dashboarding software, you're going to want to pull in data and then you visualize on top of the data. So the first step is pulling in the data. So I have my data. It is a T-Mobile data set. So what I've done is I pulled down the last quarterly earnings, and in this file, we've got balance sheet, we've got income statement and metrics, and this is Excel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open up Excel. And in this case, we're going to upload a file and T-Mobile data. So now that I pulled the data in, you'll see all of the data that's available for me to pull in. Now this comes in 2 different ways. The first is tables. You'll see this up here with the little header highlighted, and then you can also pull in an entire tab. Now in this case, just to simplify this, I've only set up tables on each page. There's no other data, but what we're going to do is we're going to pull in the 3 tables. So just as an example, here's all of my balance sheet data. So there's all of our accounts by year. We'll see something very similar for income statement. And we'll see something very similar for metrics. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull that in to Power BI. So now what you'll see is the Power BI is pulling in the data. Now what's really important to understand is Power BI is built to work with Power Query. Power Query is a fantastic tool that allows you to clean and manage data, and most importantly, it will save your steps and repeat them. Now you can use this just in Excel without having to use Power BI. I have a great video on this. I'm going to put the link for that video right here. Make sure to check this out because Power Query underlies everything in Power BI, and it can help you across Excel. So now what you'll see is that we have the Power BI dashboard pulled up. So there's a few different areas to point out. First of all, you'll see this is where we actually build the dashboard. Just like Excel, you can have multiple pages. We're just going to work with one to keep it simple for today, but this is where you will lay everything out. Over here, you have filters that you can apply, you have visualizations, and then you have all of the different data that you've pulled in, and you'll see the 3 tables that we pulled in right here. So let's get started building our CFO dashboard. The first thing we want to do, well, it needs a title. We'll come up here to text box, and just like you do in any other system, we're going to call this the CFO dashboard. We're going to format this. Okay. And there is the CFO dashboard. We'll do a little bit bold too, just for fun. So now we've got a title. So now the next thing we want to look at is the CFO is going to want to see our revenue, our gross margin, and our operating profit. Those will probably look really good if we look at those over time to kind of understand if we're growing or if we're shrinking. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to visualize our revenue, our gross margin, and our operating income across time. So for that, our y-axis is going to be the values. So we're going to click that, and Power BI will try to figure out what you want. So a lot of times it will put it in the right place. In this case, I clicked sum of value, and it put it in the y-axis correctly. Attribute, let's see where this goes. Yep, that went across the x-axis. Now this is the sum of all of the values. But what I actually want to do is I want to have a breakdown here for account, and I want the ability to look at just specific accounts on different lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply this as a filter on the visual. So for this visual, now this is important. you have filters on the visual, which will apply just to the visual I've selected, or you can filter on this page or on all pages. Now, what I don't want to do is filter on the page, because then I won't have access to this data anywhere else. So what I want to do is filter on the visual and pull in specific accounts. All right, so the ones we want here is we want total revenues, we want operating income, total operating expenses. So now that we have our data loaded in, the last thing that we want to do is we want to pull in formatting for the chart. So in this case, you can come over to the formatting tab. I'm going to go to General. Let's give this a new title. Instead of sum of value, I want to call this revenue and profit over time. Okay, so now we've changed that, and then you can come in, there's all kinds of different options. You can change the color, you can change the ranges, really anything you can do in Excel, you can do here. The rest of it looks good, I just want to change the title, we'll leave that here for now. Next we're going to look at the balance sheet. So what's the most important about the balance sheet? Well, a balance sheet isn't as interesting over time for a CFO. What's really interesting is what has changed on the balance sheet from the last reporting period. Because unlike profitability, which kind of happens on a daily basis, we evaluate balance sheets at the end of a period. So in this case, a great tool for us to use is a waterfall chart. So I'm going to take a waterfall chart in. This is going to be our waterfall chart for the balance sheet. And boy, earlier in my career, I spent so much time building and manipulating these in Excel. The fact that I can really just drag and drop this is incredible. So now we're going to pull in some balance sheet data. So of course, we'll pull in the accounts, we'll pull in the attributes, and we'll pull in the values. Now, you'll see that automatically it's pulled something in for us. This is not quite what we're looking for. It didn't really put everything exactly where we wanted to. So let's take a look at how we can move this around. Okay, so our breakdown is going to be account. We want that there. Okay, and then we're going to have our category be the attribute. So the category is going to be kind of the fixed points, and the breakdown is going to be how things have changed. The y-axis in this case is then the sum of values. But we really don't want all of these periods here. This is not easy to look at. We just want to look at one period to another. So just like we did before for this visual, we can filter this on the attributes. So I'm going to come to attributes, and I just want to look at the most recent 2 quarters and how they changed. Look at that. We have a fantastic waterfall chart going from Q1 2024 to Q2 2024 and explaining how this changed over time. Awesome. Again, we're going to go and change the title on this. I want to make sure we have the right one selected. We're going to go to title, and we're going to call this Balance Sheet Cause of Change. All right, and there we go. So now for this, we want to look at how they're performing over time. We want to look at how the KPIs are performing over time. We might also want to look at 2 different things together. So in the telecom space, you'll see postpaid, which is kind of the higher value plans, and then prepaid, which are plans paid up front for people who don't have as good of credit. So we might want to look at these trends over time. So I'm going to pull in a clustered chart. This is going to allow us to look at some of these trends over time. We're going to pull in attribute, metric, and value and see what it does. Okay, so we're close. The attribute's great. We have all the quarters there. It's pulling in the metrics and showing them over time at the value, but there's way too much data on here. But we don't necessarily know what the CFO is going to want to look like. So this is where we pull in a really cool tool called a slicer that will allow the user to look at what data they want to look at. So we're going to come over here, we're going to add it just like it's a chart, and this slicer is going to come in. So now what I want to pull in is I want to pull in my metrics. So by adding it, you'll see we have all of our different metrics here, and I can pick which one I want to look at. So if I want to look at postpaid phone ARPU, there's my chart of this over time, and the graph automatically updates. If I want to look at prepaid ARPU, there you go, and you can see that that's kind of declining as we go. If I want to look at total customers, there it is. So what this does is it allows us to build a chart and use the power of dashboards to create as many charts as we need to, but the user can look at just what they want. So what we've given here is 3 very distinct charts. We're showing the revenue and profit over time, we're showing a balance sheet cause of change, and then we're looking at different metrics, how they perform over time, and the user can choose it. So this is the base of our report. Now I'm going to leave this on total customers, and the last thing I want to show you is how you automatically can push this out to your users. So the first thing you have to do is to subscribe to our reporter to have this automatically sent out. It needs to be saved to the cloud. So we're going to go up here, we're going to click save, and we're going to call this CFO dashboard. We'll hit save, and now our report is being saved. So now our report is published and it is available to other users. So we can share the dashboard directly, but then we can also do the subscribe to report feature and have it sent out automatically. So I'm going to click the subscribe button. We're going to create a subscription. We're going to call this monthly CFO dashboard. I want this to repeat every month. We'll say we want this on the first day of the month, and we want it to go out at 9 a.m. All right, so everything looks good, and now we're going to hit the save button, and here our subscription is sent. Then what you would do is you would come back, you hit the edit button, and then you can add whatever recipients you want to this, and it will automatically send out at this date and time, sending your full report. What a powerful tool. So I have just shown you how incredibly quickly you can create a dashboard. We did the dashboard creation itself in under 10 minutes and got a very basic but very effective product out. And just imagine, I showed you maybe 1% of the features available in PowerBI. Just imagine what else there is to do. This is a financial dashboard that can help keep the entire team organized and on the same page without you really having to lift a finger once you've created it. If you take away anything from this, I want to make sure you understand that these tools are easy to use, they're effective, and you can get spun up really quickly on the basic functionality as you start to develop your more advanced skills. If you found these tips helpful, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and let me know in the comments how you're most excited to use Power BI dashboards. I read and respond to every single one. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that notification bell for more unfiltered finance strategies coming your way every single Monday. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on some of the new stuff I've got coming up. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Until then, this is Mike signing off from F9 Finance. Cheers.